Hi there, Richard here and welcome back to another devlog video. Sorry for the long break. I started working on this video but it did not came together quite well. So I put it aside for some time and worked further on the new user interface and created the web page for Patient Sower on IndieDB.com. I put a link in the description. I'm back from visiting my parents and also read the last chapters of the design patterns book. Especially the chapter about GUI patterns will be very useful for the new user interface. Which brings us to the topic of this video, the notebook user interface. It is basically the to-go place when you want to open your inventory, craft something, see detailed information about the botanic, or if you want to go to the menu. With this video I like to show you the thought and design process which led to this new interface. Before I started with the concept for the notebook user interface, I took a look at some other games as inspiration. I use a program called PureRef. It is basically a large canvas where you can paste in screenshots, and this is quite handy, so I made some screenshots from other games and compared the different user interfaces. And I want to show you the differences and the things that I think would make a good use in Patient Sower. First, let us take a look in Stardew Valley. So if you zoom in here, then we see here the, so to say, notebook user interface of Stardew Valley. So this is the crafting tab currently opened, and I like this approach quite a lot. It is very small, simplistic and very easy to understand. We have here a showcase with all the things that we can craft. To see what we need, we just hover over something and then we see here the required ingredients and a small description. Down here are the slots of our local inventory. So to craft something, you click on it, like the cobblestone path, you have it on your cursor and you pass it into your inventory. If we go down here, we have the chest opened, a nearby chest, and we have here the local inventory of the backpack. To transfer something, we just click and drag and drop it between the different inventories. One thing that I would improve or would take away from this inventory is the small and simplistic design, and what I would like to add for this inventory is the ability of filter buttons on the side to filter the showcase items a little bit, and maybe the ability that the crafting also takes into account the nearby chests, so you don't have to go to a chest, take the stones, put them into your inventory, into your backpack and then craft something and put them back again, because it would know that you are nearby a chest, and then you can simply craft everything because it takes into account all the items that are in the chests. Another thing that I want to mention here is that in Stardew Valley we have very large item stacks. So in Minecraft, for example, the default limit is 64 items, and in Stardew Valley we have, I think, 999. So this is, I think, very nice and very easy, so that you maybe have during the whole game just one stack of stones. Let's take a look next into The Witcher. What I like here is that we have, when we open the crafting or the alchemy inventory, we have, so to say, 3-column design. All the way to the left we have the different recipes that we can craft, and when we take a look here in the crafting, in the center we have then a more detailed description of this, or detailed view of the required ingredients. You can also hover over the items to see what they are, and all the way to the right there's a description box which shows the stats, here in this case the damage, and other informations about this sword. I like this approach quite a lot. It takes up the whole screen, so this is one thing to be considered, but it adds the possibility compared to the Stardew Valley approach that we can show much more information. Then in Unturned, one thing that I already mentioned, what I like here in Unturned is the nearby panel. So we have here the inventory panel opened, and this shows all the items that are on the ground nearby the player. And I want to expand this approach also to include the chests, so that you see, for example, a list down here with all the chests, and then you see which chests are nearby. In Minecraft, maybe you already know all this, there we have a workbench, we can only craft at the workbench, And in Patient Sower I want that the player can craft anywhere, so like in Stardew Valley. And what I like in Minecraft, that they added such a list with all the craftable recipes, so this is also very nice. The last thing that I want to speak about is my time at Porsche, and this also uses a full screen inventory or a full screen user interface for the crafting. And what I like here is the design of this little overlay where you can set different amounts that you want to craft, so I want to give this a try as well. While I was looking at all these games, I created some rough sketches for possible designs. In Unity I used a blank UI panel to pick a starting size for the main crafting panel. I also added an item description box that I had lying around from when I created my own pixel art font. This was quite handy, so I could get an idea how much space I would need for text. After this I went a little bit back and forth between PureRef and my screenshots and the sketches in the notebook. I used Apple Pages to create some concept sketches. I used a ratio of pixel in millimeter of 1:1, so 1 pixel equals 1 millimeter. So I set the size of this main panel according to the blank panel that you saw earlier in Unity. This is then the first version of the crafting UI, more list view, and while I was doing this I thought about how I would navigate it, if it's easy and fast, and if I can display all the information that I want. And then in the second version I used a different approach, more like the version in The Witcher 3. And yeah, while I was doing this I encountered several problems, and then I changed the next version so that I can fix this problem. And in that way I created several versions. Here, for example, a grid view coupled with a list view, and these views are stacked together. And then in the final view I changed back to a list view, and I also added this panel over here. And this is inspired by the amount panel or overlay of My Time at Porsche, so you can set a custom amount that you want to craft. I also want to display the inventory panel when you craft, so that you see directly where your new crafted item is situated. And for the inventory UI itself, I created only one draft because I want to keep it simple and display only the slots. Maybe I add some slots in the player so that you can equip certain items, like in Stardew Valley for example, you can equip rings or boots. And the last thing that I did the draft for was the UI when you open a chest. So on the top you see the slots of the chest, and the bottom you see the slots of your inventory. One thing that I want to mention is the draft for the botanic. I don't have yet a draft for that, but I imagine it similar like this one here for the crafting. So I would list all the plants, and on the filter bar you would have the possibility to show only the grasses, the trees or the bushes. And on the right side you would see a larger image of the plant and a description text like this one, which displays extra information about the plant's abilities. Now let's have a look how this would look in action. Imagine we stand beside a few chests and we would open up the inventory. We would see all the inventory slots and an organize button to automatically organize all the items. In the bottom left corner we have the nearby storage panel, and this would show us the amount of nearby storage units, and they would be highlighted in green, for example, in the game world. If you hover over an item, you see a small description box appearing, which shows us the name, maybe the category of item, and a small description of the item itself. If we open up the crafting tab, we see on the left a filter bar appearing, the list view of all the recipes, and the bottom left corner the nearby storage units, and on the bottom all the inventory slots. So we pick a recipe, click on it, and then we craft it and put it in our inventory. To craft more than one item we can set the amount to a custom value if we have enough items. If we open a chest, we see on the top the chest slots, some organize and matching buttons, and on the bottom the slots of our inventory. Now to the final result. First let us import the crafting UI and compare the main panel size with the blank panel, and you see here everything matches up nicely. And in the next step we can import the inventory UI and add a black transparent overlay. The best position maybe would be above the player's head, so that we can actually see if there are nearby storage units highlighted. If we do the same thing with the crafting UI, we have a bit of a problem, because now the player is covered up from the crafting UI, and we could not actually see if there are nearby storage units and where they are situated. So one solution would be that we add a gap between the crafting UI and the inventory slots, and another possibility would be to make the background panels a little bit transparent so that we can see through them. So at the end I maybe use a combination of both solutions, and then we will see how this will turn out, but this is one thing that we need to consider. That's it with this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have questions about anything I showed or want to give me some feedback, don't hesitate to write a comment. I highly appreciate that. Next time we will start implementing the new notebook user interface into Unity. Until then, stay safe, all the best to you guys, and goodbye!